It's one thing to say you're a global nomad and it sounds wonderful and it sounds carefree and it sounds rosy, but it's another thing to live it, huh? I was fortunate enough to go to the Montreal Olympics in '76. I had the best time of my life. I hitchhiked from Vancouver to Montreal, 3,000 miles. And a man who picked me up had on the back of his truck from Alaska, I'm an Alaskan guy, on the back of his truck he had written in the dirt, he wrote, "Olympics or bust." That's my man. Found a ride with this guy, took me 2,000 miles. We had the time of our lives. It was 3 days before we even got to 3 days after the Olympics started that we actually got there, but no problem. Montreal was amazing. For the first time, I'm partying with 2 million people from all over the world. And I'm realizing, this is home. This is where I belong. This is the kind of places I want to be, where, you know, the language is not significant. The fact of the matter is, we're 2 million people here that have come to see the opportunity to see the human spirit soar. Survive, soar, go through pain, go through joy, what have you. And at the same time, every night, whether it's commiserating a loss or celebrating a victory, partying and having a great time. So when I saw that for the first time, Olympics became a passion. Even if I couldn't make the Olympics after that, every time the Olympics come, the world stops for me. I turn off the gravy train of work or whatever I'm doing, and I spend 2 weeks watching the Olympics just so I can see people that are the underdogs, people that are amazing athletes, and people that survive all kinds of odds, like the Blade Runner in the London Olympics, to run, to jog, to swim, to throw a javelin, to what have you. London Olympics, I've been writing extensive notes because there's a story coming on the way. But London Olympics was the third part of a trilogy of articles that I've been writing on the Olympics. I wrote an article about Athens 2004. Why? Because in Thailand, for the first time ever, 4 brown, not on the billboards, ladies from God knows where in northeastern Thailand ended up winning silver and gold in what? Weightlifting. If you think of Thailand, you think of petite Thai females, the sex tourism, God knows what have you. And here are these 4 women from weightlifting coming in and taking gold and silver. So I wrote about that because I thought it was a perfect anomaly. In 2008 in Beijing, there was amazing conflict under the undertone belly, if you like, of why would we have it in Beijing? What about the human rights? Isn't it so polluted in Beijing? What's going to happen? What about the security? And these people put on the greatest show on earth. The greatest show on earth. Even though Steven Spielberg said, I'm not going to take part because of some political ideology, what have you. So there are so many global issues and contradictions and political overtones in every Olympics that for me it's worthwhile spending 2 weeks glued to the tube and getting to know what is coming up in each Olympics and writing about that. In London, the first time ever, Blade Runner, amputee that runs 400 meters, Jamaicans destroying the Americans and the Chinese in track and field. A man from Botswana wins a gold. And most amazing, remember I said I grew up in Uganda? Well, Uganda won a medal in 1976 with Akibua in boxing. And then they haven't won a medal for another 10 years, and then they certainly haven't won a gold medal in 2 decades. Out of nowhere in the London Marathon, given that the Kenyans and the Ethiopians dominate long distance running, in the last 2 or 3 kilometers, some crazy, long, skinny Ugandan who's never ever been heard of comes out of nowhere and shoots past these Kenyans and wins the gold. And at the closing ceremony, with 2 billion people watching, the Ugandan flag is raised and the Ugandan national anthem is sung. And this guy's looking at his medal to see if he's got it on the right way or not for the photographers. This is the human leveler. This is a man who obviously is going to rise to some kind of stardom in his country for having run 42 kilometers and won. It doesn't get better than that.